Hi, it's the No Vacancy News robot here again. While Glenn is away on vacation, he asked me to hold down the fort. Glenn, if you are listening, I promise to not have any crazy robot parties in your absence. I think they bought it. Let's party.
Hey everybody, let's have a robot party. Hey everybody. Hey everybody, let's have a robot party. Hey everybody.
Let's do it. Let's have a robot party.
Hey everybody, let's have a robot party.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, Glenn Hausman here. I am so excited and delighted to have you here with me each and every week here on the No Vacancy podcast. Man, what a week has it been. Wait, do I hear the vultures moving in? No, it's just the end of summer and the last episode of our Summer in the City series, where I just returned from Monterrey, Mexico, where I had a great chance to hang out for a couple of days with the good folks at Homewood Suites. And today we're going to be talking to Rick Colling, who's the global head of Homewood Suites. Learn all about that brand, how they fit into the extended stay category, lots of other fun stuff. We'll be talking to someone who does hotel development in Mexico as well. Learn what that's like down there south of the border, how they do things a little bit differently. What is the experience like for a development guy every single day? So 2 great interviews. I'm really looking forward to it. And I will tell you, I've had a great time doing this Summer in the City series all summer long. In June, we focused on Embassy Suites, Seattle downtown, Pioneer Square, talked all about the Embassy Suites brand. That was a lot of fun in Seattle. And then moving on, we went to San Antonio last month in July for a focus on Home 2 Suites with Adrian Curry, who runs that particular brand. You could check out the Embassy Suites Show, which is episode number 160. You could check out the Home 2 Suites Show, which was episode 165. And of course, today we're focusing on Homewood Suites. But before that, I want to tell you a little bit about my good friends over at Almo. You know, I really love these guys. They do great things for people. What I really love is how simple it is to work with them and what great people they are. But one of the things that you don't know is all the different product lines and services that they offer. So today, I just wanted to talk to you about the fact that they work on great in-room entertainment brands. You can partner with them to get stuff from Samsung, Cirque Plus, Peerless, Harman, Tela, Adapt, Harman, Stevens Digital, and more. Okay, so we're talking hospitality TVs, live streaming content, wall mounts, cables, connections, all of that kind of stuff that you probably need and you might need on a regular basis. So these guys will partner with you to help you save money and simplify your FF&E deployments. Please check them out for me at hospitality.almoproav.com. That's hospitality.almoproav.com. I give them a big thumbs up. Love these guys. Okay, so before we get into it, I just want to know, I just need you guys to do me a little bit of a favor. Please like our pages on Facebook and LinkedIn, or friend me personally, Glenn Hausman, on LinkedIn. I want to make sure that you guys are getting all of this great content that we're doing out there, or subscribe to our Sunday night newsletter. And you can get that by subscribing at text the word hotel. That's it. You just got to text the word hotel to 66866. That's it. It's that simple. Text the word hotel to 66866. And boom, you got it. All right. I don't want to waste your time with all of this. This has been wonderful, but now I'm on my way. I promise you, we got 2 great interviews, and I'm very happy because I'm off on vacation next week. So as you're hearing this, I'm on vacation, having a great time, well-deserved. Haven't taken a real one in 2 years. Maybe I'll figure out how to calm down a little bit, but don't worry. I got another show in the can next week and continued great new shows on this show, the Hotel Design Podcast, the Hotel Tech Podcast, the Business of Hotels Podcast, and of course, Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, which I do with Anthony Melchiori of TV's Hotel Impossible. Check out all those shows where you get your favorite podcast. And this really has been wonderful, and I really am on my way. All right, I'll see you guys later. Here comes an interview coming up right now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Glenn Hausman here. And right now, all right, so I wasn't planning on doing this interview, but I thought it'd be really fun to learn a little bit more about what development people do. I see guys like this all over at conferences. I know theoretically what they do, but what do they do? So I got Mr. Nicolas Martinez here, and you do development with Hilton down here in Mexico, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. And I should also warn you that this is not Nicolas's first language, so, you know, I'll continue to speak New York. You could just speak normal English, and we'll go from there. So how did you get involved in being in development with Hilton?
Well, as a matter of fact, I started with Hilton about 10 years ago.
Right.
I was working in operations. I was in finance. And I was a director of finance for some years. After a few years of doing kind of the same thing over and over, I started to get curious about the owner's perspective. And so I was offered a job at a different company, and I ended up being a consultant. So from there, I did consultancy for a couple of years, and after that, I had to negotiate a lot of contracts from the owner's side. And I met my current boss, and he offered me a job, and I thought it was pretty interesting, and I loved Hilton, so I ended up here.
That's beautiful. So what do you do every day? And I don't mean that to sound rude. I just don't understand what you guys do. I know it's probably a lot of getting to know people and research, but what is that process like?
So it's a lot of traveling, a lot of getting to know people, as you said. We do have to constantly travel, try to find new markets, new developers.
How do you find a new developer?
It's a lot of...
I mean, you don't just pick up a phone book and randomly call everybody.
No,
First of all, I should probably explain to people what a phone book is. I don't think anyone knows that anymore.
That's right. That's a little bit tough, and you have to be reading and seeing what's happening in different markets, what's growing. Is there a new development coming from an auto part or a touristic destination where it's worth going and trying to find new leads. So it's a lot of digging and...
So what is the process like, getting to know people and building trust so that they'll invest millions of dollars into building a brand new hotel through you?
Absolutely, especially here in Mexico and Latin America, it's a lot of building relationships. So you gotta get to know who your client is. You gotta get to know what they're thinking of doing, and to a certain point, you have to be a consultant. I mean, you have to. We try to build the right product in the right market with the right client. So it's an ongoing process, and you do have to build a relationship with some. I mean, we have different clients, institutional investors, but also some family people that are more about you have to go there, get to know their families, get to know them before they sign anything. So it's quite interesting.
So how do you set expectations for yourself? Because it is a long time to build these relationships, right? In my career, I've been at it now 25 years or so. So I'm starting to feel like now I know everybody, right? But I don't know when that happened. But the first 10 years, nobody knew me. People didn't trust me. It was really hard to do that. So how do you close deals while building trust, and how long does that take?
Well, a deal could take from, the fastest, maybe 4 months. And it's usually could be over a year, maybe 2, even 3 years. What's good for us is that we have a great brand or a great company behind us. So we're not selling Nicolas Martinez. We're selling Hilton. We have 17 beautiful and very overperforming brands. So it's always easier to get the job.
But you're also selling yourself, because people have to like you. They have to trust you.
Correct. Yeah. That's also part of the work, and that's also part of the... there's before you close a deal, sometimes you have to go and meet and review, and
of course
you're almost done, and then certain things, those are big contracts, so it's a lot of reviewing and due diligence behind it.
And you probably have the deals that you think are going to go through take a long time, and then stuff surprises you, and it just happens, right?
Yes. It's an unpredictable job. Like we do have targets, and we do have things we think we're going to be able to close, and then there's also uncertainty, and these, as you said, are big contracts. So it takes a while.
How many different leads do you have to be thinking about at once so you could close whatever amount of deals you need to close in a year?
Well, that's a rough one, and that depends on the market. But I would say out of sometimes 20 contracts
Right.
or 20 leads, you end up getting one. So it's with the time in this job, you learn to identify what's more likely to happen, how experienced your client is, do they have background, is this their first property, and that gives you some perspective on what's the likelihood of a deal.
Right. So if it's somebody's first property, they probably need a lot more hand-holding than somebody that's been at it for a while and has developed several properties already.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Excellent. Any words of advice for people that want to get involved in your career path of being a development director?
I would say you gotta get to know the different parts of this industry. I'm talking about owners, the development, their perspective. This has to be profitable. Before it's everything else, it's gotta be a profitable business. You gotta get to understand also the brand perspective, what we're selling, what we add when we have Hilton, our commercial engine, everything that's backing us up.
Right.
And also the operators. I think those are the three main actors of this industry.
So your job is a lot more complex than people would think, because you have to understand how Hilton as an organization functions and what they could deliver to owners. You have to understand ownership needs and personality quirks and all of that kind of stuff. And you also have to understand how the property itself runs. So you really have to have expertise in pretty much every facet of the business.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end, what we're selling, it's a business model, right? So it's not just the brand and being nice and pretty. We also have to deliver results.
But you are both nice and pretty, for the record.
Oh, thank you. No, I was talking about the brands.
Yes, I know.
But thank you. No, but honestly, like I think always think about what we're selling and what we're trying to get. We're trying to. I mean, that has been our success story in the past 5 years in Mexico alone. We have doubled our presence. We're now at 65 properties.
Amazing.
And we'll be hitting 100 properties in the next 3 years. That's the plan. So that doesn't happen just by itself. There's a lot of work, a lot of learning, a lot of understanding markets, owners, investors, what's happening, and that has been an ongoing process.
I think that's a good lesson for absolutely everybody listening. There's so much work that goes behind the scenes. So when you see somebody having success that's out there, you have to remember how much effort went behind it. You have to realize that if Nicolas sold a deal, he was working on 20 others potentially in order to get that one to shake loose. Any final thoughts before we go?
No, I mean, thank you so much for having us, and it's been great being your first time here in Mexico and in Monterrey. Looking forward to hosting you all here.
Yes, well, we've been having a great time. I want to thank Nicolas for being here, and I want to thank all of you for listening. We'll be back soon with another episode of the No Vacancy Podcast. Thanks for watching.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn Hausman here. So you know that today's travelers have a growing interest in city center, hyper-local hotel experiences, right? Tell me something I don't know. And I'm here to tell you how you can affordably tap into that market. That's because the Red Collection, offered by Red Roof, has been developed after comprehensive research into what these travelers truly desire. Modern, accessible, affordable accommodations in the heart of cities they love. This fast-growing group of upper-mid-scale unique hotels is inspired by each city's vibe and culture. And every property in the Red Collection has its own distinctive name, customized property enhancement plan, and brand standards based on consumer wants rather than design mandates. How refreshing. Because all of this is backed by Red Roof, franchisees get the advantage of their owner-operator perspective, as well as a loyalty rewards program with more than 3 million members that just happens to be the richest in class and least expensive for franchisees like you. Plus, you'll be working with a company with a franchisee satisfaction rate at 89%. And those franchisees will tell you, genuine relationships, real results. It isn't just a slogan, it's actually how Red Roof does business. So to learn more about the Red Collection, I want all of you to contact Matt Hostetler. He's Red Roof's Senior VP of Development and Franchising, but you knew that already. Mr. Matt Hostetler, you can find him at 713-576-7426 or email him at mhostetler@redroof.com. That's MHOSTETLER at redroof.com. And tell him Glenn sent you.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast. I'm still here. Yeah, it's Glenn Hausman. I'm surprised I survived because I've taken a journey to Mexico, and I thought I was going to be out having a great time, but dang, is it hot out there. So I thought I'd stay inside today, and I found myself Mr. Rick Colling. He's the global head of Homewood Suites by Hilton, where we happen to be staying and recording this video. How you doing, man?
I am fantastic. Couldn't be any better. Thanks for joining me on this adventure to Mexico.
Yeah, this is great. So we're in Monterrey, Mexico, and I got to tell you, never heard of this place. I only thought the only Monterey was in California.
Not indeed. Well, now you got number 2.
I know. I'm really super embarrassed because this is a huge city and there's a whole lot going on. And, Hilton in general seems to be getting very fully involved. And we are sitting here at a combined dual branded property, not just a Homewood Suites by Hilton, but also a Hampton. I want to talk a little bit about this particular concept. But before we get into it, congratulations, because next month, 30 years of Homewood Suites by Hilton. How freaking awesome is that?
Yeah. We couldn't be happier. We have, the brand itself, tremendous legacy, right? So 30 years of phenomenal history, performances outstanding. We've been on this roadshow journey to celebrate the anniversary of our 30th. We're going to celebrate the 500th Homewood next month.
Amazing.
So a lot of great things going on, a lot of exciting things happening with the brand. So it's a great year for us for sure.
So what's it like jumping into here? Because, you've got this 30th anniversary roadshow, but you haven't been around for 30 years. You've only been in Hilton 19 years, and in this position, just like the length of a pregnancy, right there.
You're right there. Yeah, well, I haven't thought about it in those terms, but
Well, I'm thinking about it because you've got to develop as the global brand leader, and then you've got to you've got your coming out now. I feel like at 9 months, because my hunch is you don't just jump into the role on day one and say, "Hey, this is amazing. I'm going to be really great at this." You've got to listen. You've got to learn.
You do.
You've got to do a whole lot of stuff before you could start to put your personal imprint on it, right?
Well, Glenn, you're right on, right? So one of the things that I've been around the brand for 18 years. And I think when you're around a brand, especially a legacy brand like Homewood, you grab a perception, right? So you've got your own internal thoughts regarding the brand. And what I realized when I took this role about 9 months ago is that I had to stop my perception of the brand and go out and learn.
That's fascinating. And I think that says a lesson for larger life. That sometimes we get so caught up in our own preconceived notions and expectations that we don't necessarily clearly see something.
Yep.
And it's really great to have a fresh eye. So how did you manage to eliminate from your mind everything that you thought you knew about this brand when you ascended to this position to reorient yourself, re-educate yourself, and help to reaffirm what this brand is going to mean in the future?
Yeah, so one of the things I learned, Glenn, early on in my role was this is a beloved brand. So investors, key partners, developers, they absolutely adore this brand.
Right, and I hate to sound like a suck-up here, but it's one of the brands that I really liked a lot because early on, it connected with me because I suddenly realized, you could have more space in a place, It's a little bit more relaxed to me. I felt like I could live, sadly I'm going to use a bad pun, at home here, right? But that doesn't mean you could rest on your laurels.
No, not at all. Great legacy, great performance. So what I realized is I had to kind of scrape my perception of Homewood, and the only way I was going to achieve that was to go out and listen. So ask great questions and then truly shut up and listen, right? Which I think from a brand perspective, sometimes we do well. And that two-way conversation we tend to enjoy. But this was a real opportunity for me to select 17 of our most affluent management companies and owners and simply go to their offices and say, tell me about your perception of Homewood. Tell me about the 30 years of legacy. Tell me about where your perception moving forward is going to be. And I just asked 3 or 4 great questions, and 2 or 3 hours later, I had phenomenal insight from some of our most important owners and developers.
3 or 4 great questions, sadly 30, 40 really bad ones, but,
there might have been 1 or 2 in the mix there somewhere, and I apologize for those that I did that to.
No, but I think that's an interesting point. So you go to all these places. You obviously spend a considerable amount of time doing this. So how did that story unfold? What was it like learning at the beginning and seeing your thoughts and perceptions of what this brand is changing right in front of your eyes?
Yeah, great. So there are certain pillars within this brand that are non-negotiable to investors, developers, owners. There's just non-negotiable, and to some degree to our customer base. All suites product, residential upscale. the phenomenal organic nature of service. So we need to, elevate the service levels of our assets by activating public space. We did a tremendous amount of questioning on the financial modeling of Homewood. How do we make it efficient, effective, not only to develop, but also from a consumer perspective, to make it have an emotional connection to the consumer. So when you're staying with a Homewood, there's an emotional attachment to the brand. The words don't come out that, hey, how was Homewood Suites and how was your stay? Oh, it was okay. Okay is not good enough, right? We wanted an emotional attachment. I felt connected. I felt like I belonged. Your point earlier, I felt like I was, kind of this home environment. And we learned time and time again that those are the aspirations of our developers. So be efficient, be effective, stick with the pillars of the brand, learn from the legacy. But learning from the legacy will not dictate your success moving forward. Right. Let's have some flexibility in design. Let's have some flexibility in activation of public space. So it was a real great lesson for us in saying, okay, there are 3 or 4, 5 things that we can do moving forward that will really impact the journey for the next 30 years.
And so let's get into that a little bit, because you have this brand. It's done well. Yeah. But any strong brand, if it stays the same over time, it will weaken as consumer choices change preferences change, whatever it might be. Yeah. So I think that's a pretty amazing observation that you had, that you, in a sense, needed to get out of your own way and kind of reinvent how you connect to the owners and operators out there to better connect to where we're headed as the consumer's going.
Well, and Glenn, I don't think anybody knows better than you know that the landscape of the extended stay environment is changing drastically day in and day out.
In and day out. And it's a market that I absolutely love. And not only are we seeing nearly 1/4 of the entire United States construction pipeline focus now on this type of product, but it's really something I think is winning with consumers. I think it's better meeting the way that people want to travel. And as we see this rise of what I talk about an awful lot, these digital nomads, people want to have more space to live because they're not necessarily renting an apartment or owning a home anymore.
Well, and you're a great example of exactly kind of, if you think in terms of you.
Right.
And I'm going to share a little bit about Glenn for maybe some of you that don't know. Father of 15-year-old twins.
That's right.
So if you were traveling, space is important to you.
That's right.
So the environment of Homewood Suites, for example, from a 2-room suite or a 1-bedroom suite, provides you the privacy you need when traveling with your family. But as a businessman or woman, it provides you with everything you need from a business perspective too. So Homewood's immersed itself in this kind of dual attractiveness of both leisure and business. And Monterey, here in Monterey, is a great example of that. They have the leisure component, and they have this phenomenal base of extended stay business, and it's performing exceptionally well. So I think Homewood, if it can capitalize on that and continue to capitalize on that moving forward, it'll continue its legacy of great performance.
Yeah, it really was. Speaking of great performance, this particular property, I don't know if I've ever seen a hotel so clean before. So clean, I was thinking of performing surgery down in the breakfast lounge this morning.
You probably could, and to shamelessly plug Monterey. We've got 494 Homewood Suites properties today,
right?
And this one is ranked number 1 in room cleanliness for
amazing.
The entire brand. So I might commit surgery myself. Phenomenal job, and I had an opportunity to meet with the team this morning, and there is a sense of, again, this organic passion to just take care of guests, because when you're on the road for 9 days, the road is a lonely place. And the more that the hotel teams can do to accommodate the guests based on their special, stay pattern, their special occasion, this hotel over-indexes on that. It's a great example of the prototypical design in Monterrey, Mexico, and what we're taking through Cala.
So being that I started this conversation saying I'd never heard of Monterey, Mexico, which I am now incredibly embarrassed about because it is such a gigantic city over here. What is driving the business here in this particular area of Monterey? I saw the tech corridor over there. As a matter of fact, last night I ran into a guy outside that was doing a big tech install.
Yeah, right. So you nailed it, right? So this hotel, perfect example of how to capitalize on both business mix. So if you think in terms of SPAR, which is the extended stay per available room, so 69 suites here at the Homewood Suites. 45% of those every single night of the week are consumed by extended stay. Their number 1 account, 9 nights length of stay.
Wow!
So it's a beautiful mix. So you get you don't get the influx of peaks and valleys as it relates to occupancy. That stable base just allows you the opportunity to make make the hotel perform exceptionally well.
Right. That's another reason why I love the extended stay product from an ownership perspective. Instead of having to go out and find 30 guests that are going to stay one night apiece, if you could get them to stay 5, 6, 7 nights, then you're only talking about 5 or 6 guests instead of 30. And even if it takes 2 or 3 times as much effort to get them, you're still far ahead.
Glenn, people ask me all the time, what's the right percentage of SPAR?
Right.
And I don't think you dictate that for each individual hotel. If it's at the right rate for the right length of stay, go ahead and book it up.
Right.
Because it's beneficial as it relates to the GOP margins, right? Less check-ins, less check-outs, less consumer of the product while you're cleaning rooms. I mean, it's just a great, great equation for great profitability for the asset.
So how did you wind up in the position of global head? You know, I feel like, Rick, we don't know enough about you. You're somebody that I feel like I've known for a while, but I'm not quite sure when you popped into my consciousness.
Yeah.
And you seem to have emerged fully formed from behind the scenes. What's going on there?
I was birthed this way.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, no, that's a horrifying thought. So born in England, lived there till I was 18 years old. And then...
what part?
Liverpool, Blackpool, Manchester area, and loved growing up in the era of punk rock and all of that great music.
Nice.
And then my dad moved to Kalamazoo, Michigan, of all places, when I was 18 years old.
And you went with them.
Well, I tried not to, but he said, "Hey, come on over for 6 weeks and see what you think." And the rest is history. I fell in love with the States. Fell in love with Kalamazoo, went to Western Michigan University on, albeit a theatre major. So I was going to be an actor. It didn't quite work out for me, Glenn, so here we are having fun.
Well, I think you're doing a great job on this right now. Who would have really thought that he actually can't stand me? You're doing such a great job.
I love you, brother. There you go.
You see, he's doing it again.
Acting.
All right, so... what was your favorite punk rock show that you went to?
I saw, back in the day, I saw the Sex Pistols live.
Nice.
And I mean, that was, it was all piercings, and it was absolutely incredible back in the day. But I wouldn't want to live through that era again. It was a tough time in England, and, half the time you ran for your life on weekends.
Yeah.
And, the States has afforded me a much better opportunity for a quality of life. So it's been
when
terrific.
you came over here to the United States, which is a pretty awesome thing to do. I can't imagine being 18 years old and moving to another country, right? That's pretty incredible. So how did you get into the hotel world?
So I went to Western Michigan University and, of course, worked my way through school. So the best way to work my way through school was to say if I could get the 3 to 11 shift at a local hotel, it was totally conducive to my school schedule. So I worked at the front desk of one of our competitors and learnt everything I needed to know for 6 months to a year at the front desk of a hotel in Kalamazoo, Michigan, of all places.
So you're probably an accidental hotelier. You probably didn't say, I'm going to get this job and it's going to be my career.
Absolutely no intent in getting onto this business. In fact, I knew nothing about it and didn't go to school for it either.
Wow. So... when did you first fall in love with it?
I always think whatever job you do in the hospitality business, do it to the best of your ability.
Right.
So I had the fortunate opportunity to work with a young lady who had been in the business for a number of years, and she taught me just about everything so it was really cool, So imagine this, Glenn, front desk, rainy Kalamazoo morning.
Right.
And as guests are departing, we have 2 umbrellas behind the front desk, and we are doing renditions of Singing in the Rain. And she taught me that if you're going to be in this business, you really need to be in this business. You can't fake it.
Yep.
You've got to absolutely love it.
But
whatever role you're doing.
You didn't do the Clockwork Orange rendition.
No, I did not.
That's
Good
not
Lord.
good for guests.
No, it's not. We did the cleaned up version.
Right, okay.
But it was just an example for me of, okay, if you're going to be in this business, you better bring that to the table every single day in this business, because it's a business that... you can't dip your toe into the swimming pool. You've got to fully jump in and immerse yourself in this business. And it kind of taught me from an early stage that, hey, this is something you're going to love. I feel that I'm subservient, so I love to service people. The greatest times in my career, as I look back across the last 19 years, have been when I've helped other people achieve their goals. And I get to do that a lot while I'm in this business. So it's in my DNA now, and as long as Hilton will have me, I'm not going anywhere.
That's absolutely fantastic. So make sure we extend this guy's contract, would you, Mr. Nacetta?
Do I have a contract?
Yeah.
Chris, are you listening?
I know, yeah. Okay, so how did you move from the property level into corporate world.
Yeah, so I had an opportunity to, and it was very strategic, actually, Glenn.
By this point, you probably figured this is my
operationally,
journey.
I'd been through, front desk, I'd been through sales, I'd been through the GM roles, I'd been multitask general manager, and I said, okay, if you really want to influence performance, you've got to get above the property. I had the fortunate opportunity to work for 8 years on Hilton's management side. So I got to see it not from the brand side, but from the management company side. So when the brand pushed down initiatives, I was the one that got to catch them on the property level and then disperse them in a portfolio of about 123 hotels. So it taught me to speak owner, and it taught me to speak management company representative rather than brand. And I think it served me extremely well in my career.
And that's a great way to pull it up to what you're doing now, because you really need to have that blend of management, ownership, persona, with that brand, the identity as well.
You do. And, one of the things that I think there is a definitive difference between talking brand, which I do very well, and talking owner, which I'm learning. So I would consider myself bilingual now, but the two languages are distinctly different. And the way in which the lens by which you look at those languages is distinctly different. One of the things that I did when I took this role 9 months ago is I took a hard look at the financials of the brand. So development costs, FF&E costs, land costs, square footage, size of rooms, mix of rooms. And again, I went out to 7 of our most affluent owners and developers, and I said, I want you to break this product down with me. And we sat across boardroom tables and we penciled out financial models to say, okay, if you're on a 5-year hold, this is what it looks like. If you're on a long-term hold, this is what it looks like. And the language that I learned, Glenn, over the course of those 7, 8, 9 meetings was absolutely phenomenal, and it will serve me well as we roll out initiatives moving forward for Homewood, is to make sure that they resonate with owners and developers, because that's the gig, right? I mean, I don't have the money, it's their money, and this is a personal investment. They're in it to make money, we're in it to make fees. The match made in heaven if you get it right.
Oh, right, yeah, and I've spent my whole career reporting on the loving relationship between owners and brands.
Absolutely, mate, absolutely, and it's great. And Hilton's always done a fantastic job of listening, but I think we've kind of dialed it up a little bit more to say, hey, let's listen and listen and listen. And then let's act. I have a phenomenal Owners Advisory Council. I've got 12 of the most affluent and phenomenal people that I work with on the Advisory Council. And anything that we do moving forward, we funnel through them. So there's nothing moving forward that we don't get their lens through. And it's a phenomenal
Well, that's really
so
critical, because I remember when I first came into this business, it was almost like there were two different industries
no question,
that the
mate.
brands and the owners were in, right? I remember back in the when Ho first started, their 12 fair franchising points, for example, right now. And now it's great to see that isn't as front and center anymore because of initiatives such as you're doing by bringing in those leading owners to help dictate the changes and the future of the brand.
Well, and there's never more, and you can imagine that the concern is if you're brought into an initiative or a project on the back end to verify that it's okay, we should never have done that. We should bring them in on the front end. So here's what we're thinking. Help us through the process so that the end result becomes a blend of what's great for the brand and what's great for owners. And we've had a tremendous amount of success, especially with Homewood, with doing that.
So we're sitting here on the cusp of 500 hotels, which will be in just a few weeks we expect. And we're here in a property that's been open for 1 year now.
Indeed.
So tell me a little bit about what that deal was like bringing it together and how, I know it was done and opened before you took this role, but how did the whole thing come together and create what you think is a template for how you see you moving forward in your position?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. So this was the first ground-up dual build in Mexico. We have a conversion property in Santa Fe, but for Homewood Suites in Hampton, this was the first dual build. And what I love about this, Glenn, is that this is prototypical of nature. So meaning if you want to get it right, these guys got it right. So 69 beautifully appointed suites. Some are one bedrooms, some are queen studios. The square footage, anywhere between 31 square meters and 38, 37 square meters. So the room size is really conducive of growth here based on sheer footprint.
Right. And for those of you that are watching the video edition of this, we're actually filming this in one of those suites right now.
Absolutely. Blended space. One of the things that I think this hotel has done exceptionally well is to take advantage of the shared spaces of our dual brand concept. So you think in terms of elevating the guest experience. one food and beverage area, which is accentuated with a bar. All of those areas are activated. So you've got beautiful seating areas around. So not only do the Hampton guests experience an elevated experience, but the Homewood guests get an elevated experience. One of the things this hotel has done beautifully in design is some of the local flavors. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't find the design concepts here in the States, which is exactly what we should be doing. We should be allowing for flexibility locally to really infuse the guest experience. Because I would hate to think somebody comes to Monterrey, Mexico, and has the same experience in Grand Rapids,
Michigan.
Michigan.
That what we've been trying to get away from? And
Indeed.
I speak in aggregate of the entire business, but that's the kind of the trick right there. How do you create something that's part of a brand that has that guarantee that the customer can have expectations while still programming it in such a way that it feels free form, but constrains to the psychological tenets that people think about the brand.
Yeah, and it's Homewood is a perfect example of that, right? So if I'm staying for 9 days in Monterrey, I want to feel like I'm staying for 9 days in Monterrey.
Right.
Not only from a product perspective, but a service perspective. And one of the things that we're doing exceptionally well with Homewood is we've really looked at the cultural service aspect of the brand. So if you're in Seattle, you should feel like you've been serviced by Seattle. I'll give you an example. I had one of my favorite check-in experiences in Seattle.
Oh, yeah?
Walked up to the front desk. I didn't get asked if I was checking in. The fella behind the front desk assumed that I was checking in because I had luggage.
Because you walked in the door.
Well, absolutely right. I'm not here to do anything else. But he had a full-on arm tattoo. He had a nose piercing.
Right.
But it was Seattle.
Right.
And he just, the experience was absolutely exceptional. And we think we can over-index on that experience of service, that experience of culture. When you are somewhere for an extended length of time, you become part of the community. And the community and the flavor of the community should be kind of the way in which you service it.
Right.
And we're going to index on that moving forward, is really influence the service culture based on the local. Monterrey is a great example of that. I was picked up at the airport last night by the general manager. To my surprise, walked through customs, walked through immigration, and there's Abraham standing there. Mr. Colling, it's great to see you.
That's amazing.
Nearly floored me.
Yeah.
But it's not me.
I had a hitchhike over here.
Did you? Well, I was going to say, did we get you an Uber or something?
No, I was met also, and it was such a delight because, the fact is that Mexico isn't an alien country, but it's still not Seattle. So you walk off the plane, everything's just a little bit different, and just to have somebody there to greet you, it just made it so much easier.
Friendly face, warm greeting, lovely handshake and hug.
Yep.
It was like, it wasn't me. I've just got a feeling they do this with every guest that graces their front door. And it was just spectacular to experience. So a really good example of localizing the service culture, accentuating that with the design of the brand, and you come out with a product like this that is really resonating with the consumer.
Now, one of the things that is interesting to me is that there's also a Hampton Inn that's part of this complex.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about the Hampton Inn today, but you are doing shared public spaces. And I'm seeing an evolution of what's happening now with dual-branded hotels. They used to be across the street from each other. Then it would be in the same parking lot. Then it would be in one building, but they were not really connected. Then they might have a pool that was connected. Now it just seems like it's one seamless experience. You don't even have to go to two different front desks.
It is.
How does that work from... I'm sure the guests have no problem with it. They love it. That must be liberating for you folks now that you've made this epiphany that you don't have to keep everything siloed.
No, and it's been an evolution, right? So to your point, they were close in proximity, then they were linked. So we butted two buildings up and we said, oh, great, there's a dual build. Mm-hmm. But there were no efficiencies in the dual build. You simply butted a building up together. Then we went with blended. So a couple of the areas you can blend. Makes sense to blend a swimming pool, a fitness center, maybe some of the meeting space. But good Lord, let's keep the breakfast separate. We think there are opportunities like Monterrey where you can merge that experience.
I thought that was incredible that you put them together because even in dual-branded concepts that seemed very together, that breakfast still kept people apart.
Yeah.
And I always think about the people that aren't staying at the Homewood, they were staying at the other one, they would have to look over and go, oh, I want those upgraded eggs.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly right. So now we brought, you bring the complex together in a hybrid fashion. The guest experience gets elevated. One of the things that we are doing is we're nodding to each signature item. So Hampton's got its waffles. They are highlighted at the breakfast, and then the baked goods.
I had one today.
localized.
I hope you didn't feel like I was cheating on you.
No, not at all, my
right,
friend.
good.
But as long as you had a bakery good too from Homewood. Did you do that? Glenn ate well this
I
morning.
carb loaded before this.
No, so it's a great example of kind of making good sense, blending shared spaces together that make good sense from an operational perspective.
Right.
And then on the flip side of that, you've got to look at it operationally. From the product we put in the rooms to the sheets we use to the soap we use.
Right.
If you can blend all of that together, there are operational efficiencies too. And then if you think about it in terms of culturally, how do you blend two definitive cultures together?
Right.
So the friendliness of Hampton, the
Right.
be-at-home culture of Homewood, what resonates is that there is an overarching theme of hospitality. So they tend to take the best attributes of both cultures, blend them together, and Monterey is a great example of how that kind of manifests
So
itself.
how's that working behind the curtain? Because you're in the All Suites division, and this other brand is not in that division.
Not at all. No. But, the great thing today is that we have what we would call a mega category.
Right.
Run by mega head Bill Duncan. I think you know
Yep.
Bill.
I have.
So he's the big guy now.
Right.
And he's taken
And
all
his head is not unusually large, as he's intimating here.
I did not say that. Absolutely. We have some great images of him.
Right.
But what Bill has done a phenomenal job
Yep.
of is he's taken Focus Service and All Suites and kind of grouped them together into this 6-branded category where there are tremendous takeaways from each of the individual brands that we can kind of collectively put together. This is a great example of that. So we take the best attributes of Hampton, the best attributes of Homewood, we blend them together in a complex like this, both culturally and physically, and it really resonates today.
Yeah, I think it's a big win for
It is.
owners. It's definitely a win for you folks. And I know with this particular property, you're delivering a lot of room nights here, and you seem to have really got this formula worked out.
Yeah, well, it all comes. You can build an asset like this, Glenn, but really, truly, it's glass and it's brass.
Right.
What it really comes down to is the team. And I think when you get an example of somebody like Abraham picking me up at the airport, it's kind of an example of leading by
Right.
what I do. And you can see it all the way through the folks at the hotel here, from breakfast this morning to dinner last night when we arrived to somebody I met in the gym this morning. It just is electrifying right through the property. But it comes down to leadership.
Wow.
I do think our brands are GM-centric in nature, right? If you've got an engaged general manager, the rest trickles down. If you unfortunately don't have an engaged general manager, it trickles down.
Right. So I'm amazed. You went to the gym this morning. Out of all of that, that's what I picked up.
Well, you know what I'm trying to keep up with? Adrian Curry.
Oh,
you know,
God.
you know that little brand that he runs, that Home 2 brand?
Yeah,
I
never
try
heard
to
of it.
keep up with him. No, I never heard of it either.
Check out our podcast that we did last month with Adrian. You can
Yeah.
also find a video version of that on novacancynews.com. So where is all of this heading? What do you expect for the brand? What do you expect for yourself?
Yeah, so for the brand, phenomenally bright future. So from the positioning work that we're doing to reimagine the brand culturally, to the flexibility plan that we have in place currently, to the design review that we've currently got in place, looking at some of the nuances on the financials that we worked at. We've got a pipeline of 106 hotels right now.
Awesome.
So the brand is in really, really good shape. The great thing about the brand from a product perspective is we're coming from a position of strength. You know, I love doing this work when you're on top. It would be tough doing this work if you've already seen a bit of a decline, but that's not the case for Homewood. It's really in a great spot right now. Operating performance is exceptional.
Right, and that's one of the things that we're starting to see right now industry-wide is things might be getting a little
Yeah,
shaky out
no
there,
question.
shakier for others depending on what market you're in. But the extended stay segment seems to immunize yourself from a lot of those things. Besides from the cultural shifts that we've been talking about, of course, there's the obvious stuff. People doing relocations, people coming in for training. Then, of course, there's divorces and disasters and
It
all
never
of these
stops.
things.
Well, and I think Homewood is always a great addition to a portfolio of hotels because it's kind of, if you want to hedge your bets, we're kind of recession-proof. We choose not to participate
That's right.
based on the mix of business that we grab. So for us, the history would, we're on a 10-year climb. So it's inevitable eventually that we're going to start seeing a bit of a decline. For me personally, hey, listen, there is not a day that I don't wake up and I feel privileged to do what I do.
Yep.
There's 17 of us within Hilton, 17 global heads.
Wow.
I'm one of them. When I moved to the States at 18 years old, would I ever expect to do what I do today? No.
No.
So
Well,
it's
how could you?
It's a bit a bit of a dream, mate.
Who grows up saying, mommy, daddy, I want to be the global head of a hotel brand?
Never.
Right?
Right. I didn't even know there was such a position.
I had no idea. Other than like fireman and astronaut, I didn't really know anything that was out here.
So I wanted to be an actor, and hey, so it kind of worked out. But phenomenal, there's, as I said, just it's a privilege to do what I do. It really is going to be a privilege to run this brand or help run this brand for the next 30 years to come, because it's in a great position. So, but I got a question for you. So Disney.
Yeah.
So I'm between you and Disney.
Yes, because as you guys are listening to this podcast, I am on vacation. I haven't had a vacation in 2 years, and the kids requested that we go to Walt Disney World. So if you're listening to this, picture me sweating and eating a giant turkey leg.
So Harry Potter's in your future?
Yeah, I'll be going to Universal and checking out the Harry Potter stuff. I want to catch that new Hagrid's motorbike adventure.
Indeed. And the kids are 15?
What's that?
Twins, 15?
Yeah, 15-year-old twin boys.
Yeah. Are they alike?
No, they're different. One's like me, one's like my wife's family.
So you have a favorite?
Yes.
I'm not going to ask which one, though. Yeah, right, that would be tough to...
My favorite is the one who's not angry at me that day.
There you go. Absolutely, absolutely.
But it's weird because I do all this traveling and stuff like that. So I don't really have to fight with my kids because I'm like a divorced dad, but I don't have to pay alimony. I come in, I'm like, hey, how's everybody? We go out to dinner, and then I leave again and leave my wife to do all the hard work. It's really
I do the
sucks
same.
for her.
I do the same. What I learned early in my career is don't go home on a Friday after traveling all week and try to dictate what the weekend looks like.
Yeah.
Just humbly say, sweetheart, it's nice to be home. What do you have planned for me?
Right. So, okay. So practically speaking, how do you balance, family life and a career over time? Because you've raised a family already as you were growing in your position. I know there's a lot of people out there that struggle existentially with what they should do.
Well, I'm glad I didn't get it right? So I was with
who does, right?
I was with a competitor for 14 years, and I've been with Hilton for 19. And I made many a stub of my toe early in my career. I think today, for me, balance is essential, right? So I think you've got to take care of you, and you have to be the priority. So I'm a fanatic regarding exercise.
Right.
I sleep well. Mm-hmm. I try to reduce the amount of stress that I go through. I try to look at this role through the lens of enjoyment rather than if you really dig down deep and you start looking at what it is you're responsible for,
right.
It can be a scary role.
Right.
So for me, it's been a wonderful adventure to say you're only as good as you. So in order to show up every day and be you better take care of you. And I've learned that in my career. As I said, I
all right, so this is the thing that always messes me up. I feel like I have to work. But I know I should be exercising more. I know I should be doing these other things more. How do you let yourself do it without fear that it's going to interfere with your job and your career?
No, it's great. So I'm people would say I'm somewhat selfish. So the first thing I pack when I leave on a trip is my exercise equipment.
Right.
That's the priority. So I'll forget the blue suit, but I can at least get to the gym. So that's my priority when I travel. Secondly, I schedule relentlessly workout time. So when I'm on the road, I have on my Outlook calendar, workout. And I usually call myself something like, hey, chubby, you better get down to the gym today. Because it's kind of a nice incentive to say, hey, because you had a couple of nice Pacifico beers last night with Glenn, you better go work it off in the morning.
Right.
So I'm relentless about it. And I think it's okay to be selfish when it's about your own personal health.
And what I understand is if you are selfish about that, it allows you and gives you the strength to be that personality that serves others.
Yeah, well, we do something. Hilton's got a wonderful Thrive program. And one of the things I love about the Thrive program is it really drives the fact that...
What is the Thrive program?
Well, the Thrive is really, truly what we're talking about is how do you have the ability to make sure that the best you shows up to your work every single day.
Right.
But there's a balance that has to be in place in order to do that. I find no use... if you've had 4 hours of sleep and you've got a 2-hour meeting with me, That 4 hours of sleep is not going to bring the best you to the meeting with me.
No, I'd be lucky if I survived the meeting.
Absolutely. So,
and I wouldn't be thinking about how I could be good in the meeting. I'd be thinking about not closing my eyes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we think that the ability to make sure that you get exercise, that you get rest, that you have a chance to recover. You know, we do a lot of work as it relates to athletes. If you think about the corporate athlete of today, I love the fact that corporate athletes of today, I work 99% of the time.
Right.
I recover very little.
Uh-huh.
And I take time to practice very little.
Right.
We work. If you take a look at the physical athlete, they perform very little. They recover tremendously,
right,
and they have a tremendous amount of time for practice. And I think that we're trying to reimagine the corporate athlete of today to say you better have a good balance between those three worlds, because if you don't, listen, you probably don't have a long career ahead of you.
All right, so I'm going to work towards a 3-hour work week.
Come on, we can knock it off after this. I'll see you in the gym later.
I love it. Any final thoughts, Rick, before we
No, one I would say is thank you for taking the time.
Sure, my pleasure. This is great.
One of the things for me is that, as I said earlier, this is a privilege for me in this role. The brand is in such phenomenal shape right now that the journey ahead, the next 30 years looks awfully bright for this brand. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to kind of share with the team here and the viewers, because there's nothing I like to talk about more, well, maybe family, than Homewood Suites. So I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, and congratulations to you. Congratulations to Hilton on nearly 500 hotels open. So the Homewood Suites story, I think, is just beginning.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
How can we find you?
You can find me, I tell you what, you can find me at rick.colling, Colling, at hilton.com. You could call me in my office, 901-374-5795. I love to hear from folks. So one of the things I'm learning is listen a lot. So give me a call or send me an email. Love to engage.
Excellent. I'll be calling you and asking, and spamming you all the time with lots of phone calls.
You do it, my friend.
All right. Excellent. I love it. I want to thank everybody for listening today. Rick was so much fun to talk to. I mean, it just shows that you can take care of yourself and you can help build a big brand out there. And boy, is it fun to watch where they're going. Rick, so before we wrap up here, now I got to say, what other countries do you want to get into?
We are doing a lot of expansion, so we're looking at Europe right now, obviously.
But I know you haven't actually gone in there yet, right?
No.
The whole idea was to get everything figured out first and then kind of...
So Lima, Peru, Costa Rica, South America, all of those are on our radar. And we've got developments in each of those. So we're...
Awesome.
Great spots to visit, so I'll send you invites.
Great. I love it. And you can find me at Traveling Glenn. Of course, check out novacancynews.com. And if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, what are you thinking about? Go ahead. Do it on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever finer podcasts are found. You'll find the No Vacancy Network. Check out this show. Check out our Business and Hotel show. Check out Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, which I do with Anthony Melchiori of TV's Hotel Impossible. Lots of great shows, all to educate, empower, and entertain. And I'll be back next week. That is on, unless I decide to move here to Monterrey, Mexico, and have some chicharrones. See you guys next week.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.